and welcome to our latest Topic Focus podcast. My name is Elizabeth Skura and I'll be your host. Today we'll focus on the topic of paperization. And in the face of changing legislation and sustainability pressures, paperization, i.e. using paper for packaging applications that were previously catered for by different materials such as plastics, has really gained traction in recent years. And for today's podcast, I'm really pleased to welcome Philippe Regaud today. He is Vice President and General Manager at paper packaging producer SWM International. And together we'll focus on how technology and collaboration can and already are fueling advances in paperization. And we will zoom in on innovation processes that enable these results. So, welcome, Philippe, and thank you very much for being on this podcast. Looking forward to a conversation today.
Good morning, Elizabeth, and thank you for having me. I'm really delighted to be part of your program.
I wanted to start by asking you, get a snapshot of where we are with paperization. Obviously, paperization has been a growing trend, and how would you describe the state of the industry right now? Is it still relegated to niche applications, or is it becoming more mainstream?
I'm going to refer to a recent LinkedIn Live panel that we did that was organized by Packaging Europe. And the topic was discussed with my fellow panelists. And so if I recall or if I summarize what we said, is clearly we can observe some changes, yes, indeed, especially in the field of flexible packaging. There are products where the migration from plastic to paper has been obvious. As consumers, we can clearly observe that, the plastic bags in the retail activities have disappeared or decreased when we buy our vegetables or fruits. Now they are in paper bags. So all the field of bagging, yes, we can definitely see a mass migration towards paper. Now, as the panelists also indicated in this panel, there are still some technical challenges that can hinder more complete migration in certain applications where the packaging plays a more functional role with some preservation needed, some freshness needed, some barrier needed. And here, I would say that we can observe a lot of activities, a lot of interest across multiple categories, being food or hygiene. Now, I would say that for some of these applications more demanding, we are still in an early adoption phase.
And I'll make sure to link the LinkedIn Live panel that Philippe did with us as well, in case you haven't seen it yet. It's definitely worth giving that a watch to dive a bit deeper into the topic. Today's focus is obviously going to be innovation, as I mentioned in the introduction. And could you talk me through the typical innovation process for a new solution at SWM?
Of course. SWM, we operate as a small multinational. So I think that would be my first precision I would make. And so as a result, we are a global packaging team and we are located on different continents. So I have colleagues in Latin America, colleagues in North America, colleagues in Europe. So it gives us a very good platform to observe our different markets. And so the very first approach to innovation is observation, is design thinking. What's happening in the marketplace? What are the pain points? What are the regulations? What are the drivers? And really, observe, absorb what we see and what we are being told in the marketplace. And so as a team, we do on a global scale. So it's quite interesting to receive the insights and inputs from the team members across the world. The expectations may differ from region to region. The second element I would like to point out is we are a cross-functional team. So when we think innovation at SWM, it's not limited to R&D. Very often, we think innovation, we think product, we think research and development. Of course, there is a big element of a product. We make paper, so we produce a physical product. But as I said, we operate as a cross-functional team. So in the team, we have business developers, we have product managers, we have R&D, and we constantly interact. So when we think about innovation, it really goes from the pain points which are observed or being discussed by our business developers with the market. Our product managers have a view on what are the unique values we can bring to the market, what is differentiating, what is novel. And our R&D team, they are going to give us some prototypes, so some samples to propose to our partners and to test on the market. So the innovation process, in a nutshell, it's global, it's based on market insights, and it's really the result of a team activity and team alignment around what we want to solve for our customers.
Yes, that sounds good. And I wanted to focus a bit on what technologies you're focused on to deliver the best results for your customers. Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yes, naturally. We are a specialty paper company. The focus in the world of specialty papers, there are plenty of specialty papers. On our side, the focus is on thin and ultra thin papers. So the number one, let's say, technology we're going to activate is paper making. This is our historical expertise. We've been in the company doing it for over 150 years. And so we really have a specific craft for producing very thin, very lightweight papers. So that's really the first technology we activate. Ideally, we will make our thin papers as strong as possible, as solid, so keeping the very lightweight, but associating it with a strength that enables these papers to be run on the packaging lines and the automatic packing lines. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to give these papers some specific properties that make them appealing in the design of future-proof packaging. What do I mean by that? I mean making our papers more transparent. When we think about replacing plastic, transparency or translucency are really key properties. Our partners are very interested by replacing plastic by paper, but they often ask us, hey, am I going to see my product? Am I going to see through? Am I going to be able to read the barcode on my packaging? So giving our papers a high level of translucency is another, let's say, development route. And we activate different technologies for that, from the chemistry to the more mechanical processing of fibers. There are several different avenues we can follow.
Could you give me a few more details about the technologies you've mentioned?
So from the paper making technologies that we have discussed, we are then going to add additional elements, additional building blocks, if you want. And these building blocks are the barrier properties. Obviously, plastic is a very interesting packaging material. We have to say it, we have to admit, and there is a reason why plastic has become predominant in packaging and in flexible packaging in the last 50 years. It has plenty of interesting properties. Um, Now, thinking of moving away from plastic, thinking of reducing the environmental, we need to continue to protect the goods. And to protect the goods, we need to give our papers some barrier properties. We're talking oxygen barrier, we're talking water barrier, we're talking vapor barrier, so different types of barrier. And very often these barriers are breeze resistance as well. These barriers need to be combined. So that's a very, very tricky activity, and it takes a lot of science and a lot of development.
And I wanted to zoom out a bit and ask you more broadly, what technologies should the entire value chain focus on to boost functionality, recyclability, and recycling rates? Because obviously it's all connected together, isn't it?
Looking at the industry in general, the key consideration, as we are talking about paperization and the paper industry proposing alternatives to plastic, the key is to make sure that uh, any products we propose can still be characterized or defined as papers. So there are restrictions and regulations. If you develop a product and your coating, you put a higher quantity of coating and your coating is polymeric, you may risk losing the definition of paper. And as a result, you you totally miss the point. So the key is what technologies can help the industry continue to put on the market products that are characterized as paper. And one very important line of work that we are exploring at SWM and the whole paper industry is exploring is the use of biocoatings. Biocoatings can enable us to meet some performance criteria to achieve heat sealability, to achieve barrier, while at the same time giving some superior sustainability credentials. Uh, there is still quite a lot of work to be done in this field. So we can see many startups, many companies proposing some biocoatings. We need to ensure that they provide the right level of barrier, that they provide a very good heat sealability. But definitely, that is a very crucial technology to explore and to adopt by the paper industry.
Hmm. Yes, that makes sense and leads me quite nicely to my next question, which was what role does collaboration play to deliver sustainability goals?
I would say collaboration is everything, in my view, and that would also echo, let's say, what we discussed in the LinkedIn panel from Packaging Europe. Uh, Collaboration is everything at the moment in the packaging world. We know that packaging is everywhere. You have all sorts of designs, all sorts of performance expectations, and you also have to take into account uh, the future regulations. That creates combining the challenges of regulations, combining the need to stay performance, the need to stay cost competitive. This creates for the brand owners, the converters, and the suppliers some pretty significant, let's say, challenges and yeah, a lot needs to be developed. So, looking out for who can help us achieve these goals is key. It's a combination between really strong understanding of of the regulations, working with packaging lines manufacturers to make sure that the new materials can be run on existing makers. It's new formulations, new chemistries. Uh, it's everywhere. Collaboration is absolutely everywhere in the industry at the moment and is absolutely vital to be able to respond to this very complex equation.
Yes, that's very true. And the importance of collaboration gets always reiterated pretty much by everybody. And I think that's a very encouraging sign as well.
Yeah, if I may say, Elizabeth, we can really observe it as well in the number of packaging events taking place around the globe. We participate in several of them, and we can see that there is an eagerness from the brand owners. Because it starts from them. There is an eagerness to know more, to discover new companies, new suppliers like SWM, new materials that could help them solve their future problems.
Absolutely, yes. I wanted to zoom in a bit and find out what is your strategy to navigate the challenges of paperization around functionality and sustainable sourcing of paper and CO2 burdens, for example, due to the weight of the paper or water use.
I will start saying that the paper industry in general has been working hard on making its uh, operations more sustainable. So, not limited to the papers we produce for packaging, but generally speaking, there has been in the last 10 years an increased focus on reducing water use, making a better use of energy, reducing the consumption of energy, moving from fossil energy to biomass energy or hydroelectric energy. So clearly, there are programs in place in the industry reduce our footprint. Now, in the specific case of SWM, I will highlight the fact that since we specialize on very lightweight papers, we see an opportunity to provide the industry with some solutions that are lighter than usual, lighter than the incumbent designs they use or incumbent papers they use. And so the challenge for us is how could our customers achieve the same performance uh, by using lower weight papers? Lower weight papers means less material, less footprint, uh, less space and weight in transportation. So definitely, uh, and that's being reinforced actually by our partners in the industry, by some the many discussions we've had with brand owners, by consulting firms as well. The fact that we can leverage our expertise in lightweight and very lightweight papers is a definitely a specific skill set that we can leverage for the future of the industry.
Thank you. I was also wondering what role does regulation play to level the playing field between different packaging materials?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I don't know so much about the leveling of playing field. If we consider the PPWR in Europe, so I'm based in Europe, I'm based in Luxembourg, so and there is a lot of regulatory activity in Europe, as everyone knows. So PPWR is really the first input to consider. PPWR to me looks material agnostic. So it looks to me as PPWR is not taking sides between plastic paper, and that's fine with us. We are a paper company, but all the materials are needed for the future of packaging. This is clear. Um, so for me, regulations don't direct the design of the future packaging necessarily towards paper. Not directly, but indirectly, yes, they play a very important role. And I would highlight two considerations that are on everyone's mind at the moment. It's recyclability. And so very stringent or more and more stringent recyclability criteria, especially in Europe for 2030, 2038. So different steps increasing the recyclability level. So clearly a drive for the industry to be considering the most recyclable materials, the materials that where the recycling systems are established and are efficient. And paper is really top of the list, clearly. But it's not exclusive. You could consider that for beverages, there could be a return to glass because glass has a very good recyclability rate and system. So recyclability is really, and recyclability regulations would be driving the choice of material. EPR, extended producer responsibility as well. So brand owners want to limit their exposure. And as well here, in the limitation of exposure, there are some steps that can be taken by changing the material towards a more sustainable option. So I think it's not that the regulation really tells you, use this material, don't use this material. But if you go through the whole, let's say, chain of events of recyclability requests or EPR impacts, yes, then it leads to the consideration of the most sustainable materials, like paper, for instance.
And I was also keen to find out PPW and other legislations, do they in turn create any new challenges for the industry, particularly paper?
Yes, yes. And I will come back to absolutely to what we discussed earlier. The challenge is recyclability. The challenge is that whatever developments we do in the industry, paper must remain the paper. So you don't want to replace your plastic packaging by something which is looking like paper, maybe looking like paper from the outside, but actually is not considered as a paper and cannot go in the paper recycling stream. So, yes, that creates a challenge because you want to achieve this amazing barrier properties while maintaining the paper definition of your product. And from a, let's say, a technological, a product development, an R&D point of view, that's not easily done. And if you go to a paper conference at the moment, you will see that a big part of the agenda is based on the technologies that are required from the paper industry to achieve this combination between giving performance, achieving a high grade and high degree of recyclability, which are driven by regulations.
And to wrap up our conversation, I wanted to look to the future a little bit. How do you see innovation transforming the packaging landscape in the coming years, particularly in the paper space, obviously?
Thank you for the question. I think you have chosen for the closing question a very big one. It's a very big question. So let me try to answer it by taking a little bit of a step back. So we've been discussing in this podcast a lot about materials. So of course, materials innovation, we've said, is going to be crucial. But I would like to expand beyond materials. We've been discussing as well about innovating in novel packaging structures and design. So it's beyond the materials. Is how do you assemble the different materials in novel, sustainable, and performant designs. It's also about recycling. Um, there is room for innovation in the space of recycling technologies. And if you are curious and about technologies and innovation, yes, you can spot some innovations taking place in recycling technologies. And you can also spot some room for improvement, where if we were able, if the technologies were in place to recycle certain, let's say, biopolymers, then that would create a big opportunity for the company to adopt these new materials. And finally, I would say innovation, coming back to my comment at the beginning of the podcast, we said innovation at SWM is not only about the product. So I'm going to also close reinforcing this statement. Innovation is also about the models you adopt, the business models you adopt, and collaboration. So innovation could be as well not doing everything yourself, but partnering with some other companies or transferring some know-how to some partners. So innovation is about how can we accelerate the way to achieve our goals, to transform the packaging industry into a more sustainable place, while continuing to really give the industry all the value it deserves, which is protecting the goods, transporting the goods, making the goods look good. So I hope I've been able to illustrate how I see innovation, which is really goes way beyond the materials and the products.
Yes, I think that's come across really clearly and has been a really interesting conversation. So that brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much, Philippe, for sharing your insights today.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for giving me a chance to speak up, and I look forward to the next opportunities.
Absolutely, yes. That ties in with what I'm going to say next, because if you'd like to dive deeper into the topic of paperization, why not join us at Packaging Europe's Sustainable Packaging Summit, which this year takes place in Utrecht in the Netherlands from November 10th to November 12th. SWM International will be there as well as many other players from across the value chain, of course. You can go to packagingsummit.earth for more information. So that just leaves me to say thank you again to you, Philippe, and thank you everybody for listening. Goodbye.